Hey guys, a few weeks ago I was invited to go and surf cast in the far north of New Zealand. The purpose of the trip was to film a bunch of new product and some promotional videos for Shimano, and the scenery and the fishing was just absolutely stunning. So I guess the purpose of this video is to share some of that with you. I was lucky enough to fish with Chad Prentice, who is one of the country's leading surfcast fishermen, and at the end of this video we're going to sit down, have a one-on-one tutorial with him and sort of get inside his head and find out what makes him so good. If you're into surf casting or you're new to surf casting, this video may be of help like it was to me. So yeah, if you like this video, give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and enjoy the stunning scenery in the far north of New Zealand. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hey guys, we're in the far north of New Zealand and we're surf casting, and we've been very lucky to be able to fish with Chad Prentice here, a Shimano pro surf caster, and it's been an absolute education this week for me, and it's going to be good to get inside your head and share with the viewers all your knowledge and obviously what we've learnt this week as well.
Yeah, no, thanks heaps for coming. It's been an awesome time.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool, very cool. Caught a lot of fish. You got that big trevally yesterday, but seeing the gear that you've been using it is very, very refined. You know, like you're using like 6 kilo mainline, the rods are really high tech. I mean, where has all this come from? Is this something that's been developed in New Zealand, or is this, you've got a Japanese influence in this? What?
Yeah, I think over the years it's come a long way. We originally started with the old bamboo and the big thick downpipe rods, but I think through a bit of a Japanese influence over the last 5 or 6 years it's really come a long way. Yeah, and so we're seeing slimmer rods and they're just getting thinner and thinner and thinner to a point where you think, jingers, is this even going to work? Is it going to be strong enough? But they are. It's incredible technology and it's come a long way.
Yeah, that's one thing that I did notice is we're trying to cast our baits a long way, a big distance. Casting is critical for this, you know, sport.
Yeah, it is. It can be. When we're on surf beaches like we are now, distance is a big part of it. Being able to get to the back of the holes and into water that's not usually accessible. So getting wet and then having a really good cast is a major element to success.
And what's the optimum length for a surf casting rod?
Anything around that 14 to 14'6" mark is usually about bang on. Sometimes people go to 15 foot if they want a little bit more height with their mainline out of the water, and that could be because they're fishing estuaries, or could be to get rid of the swell in the 90 mile and stuff like that. Yeah. And then some people will go back to a 12 to 13 foot rod, particularly if they're shorter, just because they can bend that rod. The 14's a little bit long for them, so.
Yeah, okay. A great thing with the Shimano range is you've got the real high-end gear like the Surf Lead Ultegra rod and reels, and then you go right down the range. You've got the price-pointed gear as well, but it's all been designed purposely for New Zealand, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it has, and everything in the range has got a purpose. It's really good stuff.
Yeah. So Chad, what are you actually looking for in a surf reel?
A lot of it comes down to the design of the spool, having really good line lay, so that way when you're casting it distributes well, but having a good depth in the spool, so it's not all coming from the same area on top of each other, and it spreads right up and has less friction, so it comes through the guides well. And probably another really important thing is, because you're getting out so far, is you want a reasonably quick retrieve. It's nothing worse than standing there all day, so nice deep spool with good line lay and a fast retrieve.
Right, and I guess we've briefly touched on this, your casting distance is critical. What do you do to achieve that?
The first thing is starting off with the gear, having the deep spool in the reel, and then having a lower diameter mono, so we're using 0.23, 6.1 kilo Suffix Advance. It's really thin, it just flies through the guides with minimal friction. We're using tapered leaders, like the Suffix tapered leaders. The use of a tapered leader has several purposes. One is so it has a really nice small knot between the light line and going into a leader. You can't use light line without a tapered leader because the knot size is too big and it wears on the guides with every cast. And the reverse is when you're landing your fish and you get it into that zone where it can come off, you've also got a nice thicker end, so it protects, you've got a little bit more weight to pull it out of the waves right at the end when it matters. And then right on the pointy end, we're using rigs where the bait and sinker all become one, so it flies with a little bit more aerodynamic.
It's like a pulley system, it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pulley rig, and the bait clips onto the imp clip, which is obviously attached to a sinker on a fast clip. That allows it all to fly as one, so it's aerodynamic, it gets right out the back, and that's the first aspect of it. The second one is when it hits the water, it releases the bait, and the bait comes up away from the rig itself, away from the sinker. The sand grips anchors itself into the sand. The bait comes away and it sits down current, and that enables you to put on floats or skirts or any type of attractants that you can work that current to get the extra bite. That's what I like about the pulley rig. Other rigs don't quite offer that. And when a fish picks up the bait, it's not direct on the main line or the sinker. It sort of works on where you get the word pulley
so
from.
it enables the fish to actually to swallow and bite, get the bait down there as well.
Yeah, without feeling that direct pressure.
Yeah. So if you had one tip, Chad, for casting distance, what would it be?
Probably creating enough space and time so you can get a nice smooth cast out. You see a lot of guys run at the wave and quickly deliver a bit of a cast and it goes straight in the ear, or they try and push the envelope and get too close to the wave. Create enough space so you're comfortable, you don't have to rush, and just be smooth with your cast, and gradually it'll build. That's how you get better with distance over time.
Yeah.
When you're casting, it's really, really important to ensure that you're able to bend the rod. If you can't bend it, you can't send it. So you want to make sure that you're able to get enough rotation of the rod and be able to load that rod up properly. And sometimes people have got too much drop between the sinker and the rod tip, so they're not quite being able to load that rod tip up properly.
Right, yeah.
So by shortening it, a little bit more rotation, loads it up better, and you're able to send that bait out further.
Yeah. So when you pull up onto like a stunning beach like this, Chad, what are you looking for? Where's the perfect place for you to fish?
Primarily looking for natural food source, so tuatuas, that's a good one, always attracts fish. And you're looking at the water colour, and it gives you an idea of the depth and what's out there. So you're looking for that darker water where you're going to get some good depth to get a bait into, but then what's beyond that? And sometimes if there's a big sandbank at the back of it, nothing can travel into it.
So you're looking like for channels and guts that...
You're looking for a really good hole that's got good depth, and then it's got access from the back of the bar coming in. So that allows fish to travel into your bait.
Yeah, right. And like if your perfect tide or perfect moon phase, has you got anything like that?
Generally the top and bottom can be a little bit slow when the water's slack, so it's always good to have a bit of running water. I'm not too fussed whether it's low or high, it's just about being out there and giving it a go.
Yeah. You got a favourite moon phase? This is real good tip here.
Favourite moon phase, I like new moon and full moon, but I like big tides. Nice big tides where they're running at a real high coefficiency, and that means low lows, high highs, and lots of water running, and that gets the fish going.
So like in most forms of fishing, bait presentation is critical. What's some of the tips that you'd give out for that?
Yeah, I think bait selection and presentation kind of go hand in hand. They're really, really important. And it's about where you're fishing, knowing what you're fishing for, so you've got an idea of how to pitch that bait to the certain species. Whether we're chasing gurnard, we're using nice bits of fresh kahawai, bright chartreuse colours and greens. If we're chasing trevally, we want lighter traces, longer traces, bigger floats, and we also hide the hooks, so that way they're a little bit bait shy, the old trevallies. Whereas snapper, we're looking at bright pinks and bright reds and yellows. The trace doesn't have to be quite so well hidden, it can be a little bit heavier, and we have generally a lot more hook exposure, so we try and do our best so we can release our fish after we catch them. But the presentation is really important because it affects the way it sits in the water and how it's pitched to the fish.
Yeah, and then obviously casting, that bait needs to stay on the hook as well?
Yeah, it does, yep. And that all affects the flight of it. So you're trying to keep it slimline with the trace as best you can, but enabling it to try and be not so rigid, like for as if you got a stick on there. You sort of want it to have a little bit of action, so you try not to compact the top hook too much.
Yeah.
Try and keep it fluffy so the fish can actually get a good taste and a good feel of it and want more, as opposed to picking it up and going, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, and you're holding your baits on with like your rigging elastic to secure it onto the hook?
Yeah, really important aspect of rigging up is having good bait elastic. We tend to stay away from the flosses because it bulks up the hook a little bit and gets stuck on there, but the elastic comes off really easy.
And it's biodegradable as well, eh? So Chad, when you go to pick a rod for surf casting, what are you looking for in a good rod?
You're looking for something where, first of all, the individual can bend the rod. So if I can't bend it, I can't cast it. So that's really, really important. I like rods in that 14 to 16 foot range and a really fast tip. And so what I mean by fast is when you cast, the tip comes up and down, and it's all about that responsiveness and when it regathers. And the faster it does that, the less friction on the line. So I'm getting optimum casting distance out of the rod tip. So for me, that's really, really important. And you want the bottom sort of third or 2/3 of it to be quite rigid and stiff, but with enough give in the top that when you do have a fish and you're playing that fish, that you're not going to lose it through being too aggressive. It folds away nicely and looks after those hooks in its mouth.
Well, Chad, thanks very much for an amazing last few days. I've learned so much about surf casting. We're going home with a big cooler bag full of fish. And we've learned heaps in the process. If you want to check out the massive range of surf casting rod and reels and equipment, pop down to your local Shimano retailer and have a look. Adios, thank you.